The Romanian deadlift is a great exercise for the glutes and the hamstrings, yet most people do them wrong. You won't after watching this video. Hey there, it's your favourite friendly fitness nerd Fahad from Fit with Fahad and TFF Fitness here to break down to you the technique that you need to perform a Romanian deadlift proficiently. Now, before we even get started on this whole technique of the Romanian deadlift, we have to understand the first most fundamental principle about this kind of exercise. Now, just like many other exercises that require a hip hinge, you should be able to do the hip hinge first before you perform this exercise. And we're going to talk about the hip hinge now. So one of the reasons I don't give my new clients, especially exercises like deadlifts and squats, is because I want to make sure that they can perform the hip hinge first. The hip hinge is basically this motion here, where you've got your hips and you're just hinging them backwards and you're just pushing your bum backwards, okay? Now, if you can close a car door with your booty without bending your knees too much, you can hip hinge, okay? But the more accurate way to measure whether you can do hip hinge is what I call the broomstick test. So you're going to need a broomstick. This is a nice light aluminium one I picked up from Wilko's, but you can use a wooden one or whatever you have that looks like this, okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to place the broomstick on our back like this. So most of our back is touching the broomstick right from the base of the back all the way up to the head, as you can see. And what we want to be able to do is, can we lean forward with the broomstick still intact on our body like this? So if you can go back down as far as you can and still have the broomstick touching all points of your body, you can hip hinge. What we don't want to see, and I see this quite often with people that are just starting out, is as they go down, okay, their head comes down here, they start curving their upper back, their cervical spine into their thoracic and even into their lumbar, and they lose contact with the broomstick. So the first thing you want to be able to do before you even do this exercise is be able to proficiently hip hinge. And if you're not sure if you can hip hinge and you've done the broomstick test and you want to improve your hip hinge, I strongly suggest going back to the hyperextension video, really working on your hyperextension and getting really proficient at that. And then we can talk about hip hinges with band workouts as well. But let's move on to the actual exercise of the Romanian deadlift now. Okay, before we even go into the exercise, we're going to talk about your reactive range of motion and the joint actions of the muscles involved. So when we're thinking about a Romanian deadlift, we're thinking about glutes and hamstrings. And if you remember from the previous videos in this glute training series, we talked about the joint action of the glutes. We spoke about hip extension, we spoke about external rotation and abduction. When we talk about the hamstrings, we're really talking about knee flexion, okay? And there is a certain degree of hip extension as well, okay? So if you bend your knee as much as you can, and then just pull your hips back like this, you should get a nice cramp in your hamstrings. So the movement we want to do with the Romanian deadlift is that hip hinge and really sort of like extending the hip with a slight 5 to 10 degree bend on our knees. We don't want to use any more bend than that. If we go any more bend than that, this just becomes a normal deadlift or a rack pull if you're going to be using a platform. But let's talk about your active range of motion and the big mistake I see people making when they do this exercise. It's very common to hear coaches who potentially might not understand the concept of active range of motion just give a generic cue like go down as low as you can, get a flat back, okay? And that's a fair enough cue if your active range of motion allows you to go that far down. Now, how do we know our active range of motion for the Romanian deadlift? Well, it's not that difficult. We want to basically get into the stance. So we want our feet at about the hip width position, shoulder width position, toes slightly pointing out. We want to grip the floor with our feet. Okay, we want to clamp the glutes, and from here we want to keep our chest out, our shoulders pinned back, and we want to basically hip hinge with all those muscles I just mentioned activated, go down as far as you can. Now for me, my end range is just around here, okay? So I can't even get flat back, okay? I can get flat back if I start to use my back to bring me down. I can go a lot further than that if I really start using my back. But the problem with that is as soon as you start using your back, you're flexing your spine, okay? So let's just say I'm flexing my spine to get this low. This initial movement here, it's going to be spinal extension. It's going to be using your lumbar spine into your thoracic, okay? Now if you've got a heavy bar and you're doing that movement and the initialization of that exercise is from the spine, you're potentially going to damage your back, and we don't want that. And secondly, we only want to focus on the glutes and hamstring. That's what we're trying to work out here. If you want to work out your back and your spinal erectors, there are far more better exercises you can do for the back than a Romanian deadlift. The second mistake people make when they do a Romanian deadlift is when they try to go down, even if they maintain that active range of motion, to get that little bit lower depth, they drop their shoulders down, okay? That adds a few inches to the depth of the bar, how far the bar goes down. But again, if my shoulders are down here, that initial movement coming up is going to be my shoulders and my back. And again, we don't want that. The last thing I want to say before we even get on the exercise is the bar is an advanced version of the Romanian deadlift. If you find it a struggle to get the shoulders pinned back and you've got maybe weak rear delts or you've got poor posture, you might want to start off the Romanian deadlift using a trap bar, which kind of locks you in this position here, or dumbbells. And I'm going to show you a quick dumbbell variation right now so you understand the difference between the two exercises. So with the dumbbells, I can get into this Romanian deadlift position and have the bar, the dumbbells quite close to my body and quite close to the midline of my body. Okay, I can bring it further forward here, but if I'm struggling to get my posture of my shoulders and my chest into that thoracic extension, then you can use dumbbells or a trap bar to put you in that position. You can't do that obviously with a bar because the bar is bringing you forward, but the advantage of using a heavy bar that you're going to get is it creates more challenge to the hamstrings and glutes because it creates a longer moment arm. Okay, that's physics, and I don't really want to get too much into physics and biomechanics in this video, but if you understand what I'm talking about, you'll understand the reason why you use the bar. But let's keep this a bit more basic and go into the technique of the Romanian deadlift with a bar. So the way I do a Romanian deadlift personally is I like to do it inside a power cage. Gives me an opportunity to dead stop it. Gives me a little bit of safety just in case I'm going really heavy and I start to lose grip or I need to rest. You don't need to do it in a power cage. And the second thing is with the power cage is because you've got these bars here for safety, you can measure the depth of your active range and you know you're not going over that active range. So with the bar in hand, you want to basically have your shoulders pinned back and your chest out, and you want to basically reach down until you start touching the bar. That's when you know where the bar, your hand should be on the bar. You want to be right in the center. Okay, you want to get a nice grip on the bar. Now if you're going heavy, you might want to do the screwdriver grip or the inverse grip, or you could use straps. This isn't too heavy, so I'm just going to hold it with my hands, but when I go quite heavy, I like to use straps. Okay, I want to start off with my knees at a slight 5 to 10 degree bend in them. Okay, and then from this position, I make sure that I've got my right stance, I've got the toes pointing out slightly, I've got my feet activated by pushing into the floor, my glutes are nice and clamped from this position. I want to create that neutral spine, so my chin tucked in, I want the top of my head to be in line with my back, and from here, I'm going to drive, like we did on the hyperextensions and the glute bridge. I want to squeeze my glutes and drive my hips forward here, okay? And again, it's my glutes doing the work, not my back. So when I come up, what I don't want to do, I don't want to go beyond the range of the contraction of the glutes. So if I, from this position, before I even lift the bar up, if I come up, squeeze my glutes as hard as I can, and from this position, drive my hips forward while squeezing my glutes, I can't go beyond this position here. So I've still got a slight bend on my back. That there will then engage the lower back. So you don't need to go fully straight with this exercise, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? So you've got the bar here, chest up, shoulders pinned back, nice neutral spine, driving hips up, squeezing as hard as you can, slowly coming down, good tempo, until you get to that end range, drive up, squeeze, slowly down, drive up, squeeze, slowly down. Okay? Now, you will feel that on your hamstrings and your glutes. If you want to accentuate the challenge on your glutes, there are a couple of things I would suggest you do. The first thing is, I would fatigue out your hamstring. So before we do the Romanian deadlift in part of our workout program, I'd add something like a hamstring curl. I do a hamstring curl before I get into the Romanian deadlift. Fatigues out your hamstrings, takes a little bit of emphasis away from them, your glutes will have to do more of the work. The second thing you can then do is, I've got these pegs here, I can put a band across here. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up this band here. I've got this band across here. I can put the band now across my hips and my ASIS, and again, if you don't remember what an ASIS is, go back to watch the hyperextension video where I explained that. It's really important you watch that video before you attempt the Romanian deadlift. I can lean forward slightly. This is now putting resistance against my hips. So now when I do the Romanian deadlift, not only am I got the resistance of the bar lifting up, but I've got the bands pushing me back, so I've got even more emphasis on my glutes. So now I come up, my chest is out, my shoulders are pinned back, my hips are back, like I'm closing a car door with my butt, okay? And when I come up, I want to make sure that another cue that I like to give my clients is, imagine the bar is a paint roller, you just want to paint your thighs, okay? So from here, you're painting your thighs, you're driving your hips forward, close the car door with your ass, come up, paint your thighs, slowly come down, close that car door with your ass. Alright? Weird cues, I know, but that is the techniques that I would suggest and I recommend to my clients on how to do an effective Romanian deadlift for your glutes, for your hamstrings. If you have any questions or you have any comments, drop me a message below. Listen, if you guys are struggling to feel your hamstrings and glutes work, if you're feeling your lower back, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to help you. I'd like to give you the right technique, the right form, so you can create that physique that you're looking for, burn that fat, build that muscle, create that athletic body that you're looking for. Now, again, if you've got any value from this video, please, I really would appreciate if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications. It really helps me to grow my channel and add more value to you guys, and I know what's working, and I know that the efforts I'm putting out there are worth putting out there. I know that sounds really contrived and a little bit stupid, but I can be like that sometimes. Okay, so have a great day, take care, remember to sweat more, suck less, stay awesome. I'll see you in the next video.